How is it that our minds can generate the illusion of us having brains? What are minds? Your mind is your consciousness, if you like, and probably your awareness that you have that consciousness. What is consciousness? Consciousness is not one thing. Consciousness is your thoughts, your desires, your beliefs, your hopes, what philosophers call your propositional attitudes, those states of being which can be described propositionally, your belief that today is Tuesday, your hope that Reform haven't screwed up the Makerfield by-election. And also what philosophers call your qualia, the felt properties of experience. Pain, for example, that's the favourite one. Philosophers call these qualia, those aspects of consciousness which aren't propositional in the way that beliefs are, but which you've just felt. Now, what's called the hard problem of consciousness is how to explain away those qualia within the assumptions of materialist science. How is it that my toothache is somehow just the same thing, is reducible to a certain set of neuronal firings going on when I happen to have my toothache? Okay. There's a kind of uniparty thing going on there, which is that a problem is set up in the same way and various solutions are proposed. It doesn't occur to anyone, or to very few people, that it's the way the problem is set up that is the problem. So philosophers operate within what you could call the post-Cartesian consensus. The idea being that there are thinking substances, minds, and there are measurable substances, bodies, material things, chairs, tables, rocks. Now, how is it thinking substances and material substances, that which is thought and that which is measured, can coexist in the human person? How are we minds and brains? That's the way it's set up. It wasn't always set up like that, but it is within that operational framework that the debate in the Western analytic tradition tends to occur. Many years ago, the philosopher Frank Jackson wrote a paper called Epiphenomenal Qualia. Ignore that. Just a stupid philosopher's title. Jackson is an Australian, but nevertheless, he's quite a subtle and deep thinker. And in that paper, he proposes a couple of thought experiments, the most famous one being the following. Imagine a lady called Mary who has, from birth, not experienced colour. Mary has been brought up, raised in a monochromatic room, just surrounded by black and white. It's a thought experiment, so we're supposed to go along with this. Now, Mary, being bored and also being bright, has to do something when she's in this room. Excuse me. And what she does is to become a neuroscientist. She has access to books. She has a black and white internet. She promises never to look at colour online. Anyway, I'm finessing the thought experiment at that point. Anyway, not only does she become a neuroscientist, she becomes the world's leading expert on the neurophysiology of colour experience. So she knows all about the colour red, in the sense that she knows everything that's happening in your brain when you experience the colour red, something she doesn't, because she's in purely monochromatic surroundings. But she has that knowledge. One day she is released from this room. She goes out into the world. Big mistake that. But she goes out into the world, and for the first time she experiences colour. The question is, when she does this, does she learn anything new? It would seem to most of us that she does. But what she learns that's new can't be a physical fact about colour, because she knows all of those. That's the way the thought experiment's set up. So what she learns about red, for example, when she comes out of the room, must be a non-physical fact. Therefore, physicalism, the claim that all mental contents are in some way just physical processes in the brain, must be false. I'm not a big fan of thought experiments, but for a long time I couldn't really see what was wrong with that one, apart from the fact that it was extremely unlikely, but it's a thought experiment, so it will be. Now, there were ways around this within the assumptions of the Western analytic tradition. Some philosophers, for example, wanted to say that what Mary knows or learns isn't a new fact, it's just a new way of knowing the same thing. What she acquires isn't knowledge, she acquires a capacity of some sort. Or what she learns is knowledge, but it's not propositional knowledge. It's knowledge by acquaintance, as philosophers call it. Rarely has it occurred to philosophers within the Western analytic tradition that maybe you can't use thought experiments to settle these things. Especially in the area of consciousness and thought. Because why would you expect the eye to be able to look at itself? You wouldn't really. So why would you think that thought experiments are applicable to consciousness? Why think thought can solve itself? So if thought experiments are not applicable when it comes to questions of consciousness or mind, don't apply them. So here's what I'll sign off with. It could be the case that the way consciousness is structured, the way God has ordered our souls, because I prefer to think of souls rather than consciousness, the way God has ordered the way we experience the world, and therefore Him, could be such that it's beyond our capacity to explain. And so this thing called the hard problem of consciousness is no such thing as a problem at all. Because if something is in principle inexplicable, it's not a problem, it's a mystery. And that maybe this thing called the hard problem of consciousness is more an invitation to humility. That there are some things that we just can't explain, and not all these things are sacramental, but they're mysterious. And it's okay to have mystery. Logical contradictions are not good. Paradoxes are fine, because they're not logical contradictions. They just seem that way to start with. And mysteries are blessings. So when Mary comes out of that room, she does experience something new. She enters into a more mysterious, phenomenological way of being. But what's going on there cannot really be expressed within the presuppositions of the Western analytic tradition. So, comments welcome, and God bless you.